we are live on LinkedIn. Mary McCarthy here with the Data Tea, starting a couple minutes late today. We had a few technical issues to work out on my end, so sorry about that for anybody who's waiting. I know lots of people are planning to tune in for my guest today. He goes by the name, the Seattle Data Guy, Ben Rogojan. Ben, thanks for being here.
Yeah, thanks so much, Mary. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I want to start by congratulating you on the success of your YouTube channel called The Seattle Data Guy. You're closing in, I think, on almost 30,000 followers. Is that right?
Yeah, it's been great. It's been a lot of fun trying to figure out, what to make, and it's been fun to kind of put out a lot of videos. Yeah.
See what works, see at what point people kind of start subscribing. So I discovered you because I would say, one of your students. I was in the position of a lot of people who watch your YouTube channel, which is obviously for data people, people learning data, a lot of them either transitioning careers or already working in data and wanting to maybe move to a different part of it. And so I was in the position where I'd learned a lot about data science, was working in data analytics, ended up working in really an analytics engineering department and got really interested in the data engineering, analytics engineering side, something that formal education, formal training doesn't really teach a lot, not yet.
Yeah.
And that's what I discovered, obviously, on your channel. So why don't we start by talking about what the main gist of your channel is? A lot of it is that kind of data engineering education, right?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the focus. It's a lot. There's definitely a focus on like early career, what role is good for you. Data science, data engineering, all these different titles. How to kind of break into it, how to maybe study to pass an interview for certain level of companies and certain types of companies. Kind of maybe what's expected of you. I do some like more technical as well videos, some light SQL, but I think the bigger focus is like trying to like talk about other things in general as well. Like data engineering as a career. Like, what is it? What are you going to do? What skill sets do you need? Things like that.
So what motivated you to start this? You are somebody who has a pretty extensive background as an architect, an analyst, and a data engineer. I think even doing a pretty long stint at Facebook. What made you say, I want to put my own content out there, become an influencer, if you will?
Yeah, I don't think that was ever the goal. The goal was just, one, share things that I wish I had when I was kind of coming in, finding that data engineer is a career in general. I think that was part of it. I think it's a kind of a fun creative outlet. And then every once in a while I put out videos that I think are a little more focused at decision makers, and trying to help them as well, and seeing if they could be interested in I do a lot of consulting and figuring out maybe this video will help you answer a question. Like, are you looking to figure out what data visualization tool to use, or what, like trying to figure out data warehouse or something like that, trying to put videos around that content as well.
Awesome. Why don't you walk me through your background a little bit that led to you doing this, which is also kind of part of your main gig these days, which is running a data consultancy. But what did you do up until now?
Yeah, prior to like full-time consulting, I worked, like you said, at Facebook, doing data engineering work, again, helping companies or helping Facebook centralize a lot of internal data sets, building data pipelines, things around that. Prior to that, I worked at like a healthcare startup where we basically worked with claims data and pulled in a lot of it, like insurance data from different companies, and tried to help companies improve like the health of basically their employees, and as well as like some other things around like opioids and a few other kind of areas, trying to provide analysis into there. Prior to that, I worked at a hospital where I did like BI work, reporting mostly around like financials and things on that nature. So that was kind of the general path and trajectory that I took out of college, which was my college background's in information systems. So yeah, that's kind of my general background.
Awesome. So a really solid background with the healthcare analytics. That's fascinating. I have a question that I bet you hear a lot, which is, why leave a big tech company, whether it's, you were at Facebook, but in general, for a lot of people, especially those starting out, it's like, that's the goal, right? To get into one of those companies. What made you say, I'm ready to move on?
Sure. I mean, I've always kind of had this consulting company on the side, so that's always kind of been part of what I've been doing and just kind of growing. And I think it's a lot of fun to do a lot more than just purely the technical part of work. There's a lot of other stuff you got to take on, a lot of other discussion you got to be part of. I think you got to start being part of a lot more high level discussions beyond just the data. And I think that's one reason I was like, oh, this might be an interesting opportunity to kind of grow, challenge myself on skills that I don't get to use as often or don't have to even, right? Like when you're technical, you can kind of get away with being more technical than anything else. And then, some of your other skills might not be as utilized depending on, like, again, the company and the role and how much of an opportunity you have to use them. So I think that's kind of part of it.
Yeah, that's a perspective I've heard from other people who've left some of the big companies is obviously there's a high level of work being done. The pay is nothing to scoff at, certainly, but you're sometimes very much in a narrow lane. And that can be frustrating, both in terms of intellectually and in terms of your long-term career growth. So that doesn't surprise me. I want to ask you about some of the consulting you do. It's for small and medium-sized businesses, I believe. So you go in and help them build out a data strategy. You have a questionnaire that you sometimes start with. Tell us about that.
Sorry, can you repeat that? Like,
I know we're having a few issues with the feed. So if one of us freezes for a moment, bear with us. So I'll repeat the question. When you go into a company, you have a questionnaire that you give them. Sometimes I think it's like 20 questions about the current state of their data, if there is a current state even of their data. Tell us a little bit about the questions that you ask in that questionnaire.
Yeah, I mean, I generally focus around things like, starting out with, like, what are your goals? Like, what questions are you trying to answer? I think that's generally the first focus. Just trying to understand, like, what's going to drive their business. Because for different companies, there's different problems they might be focusing on, right? Like, there's only so many people that can make things happen in a company, right? Like, companies based on, if it's a 100-person company, you've only got so many people that can work. So trying to make sure that whatever we're doing, like, data wise, aligns with a majority of the company's kind of workforce, so that you don't end up like doing an analysis or putting together a dashboard that then no one even has time to work with. So I think that's kind of part of that. And then after that, it goes more into, like, what data sources do you have, what solutions are you already using, if any, what are you kind of doing for ingestion, what are you doing for storage, what are you doing for visualization and things like that. So it's trying to figure out where they're at, who they have as a team, who's going to be like that stakeholder, and really kind of if we build something for them, who's going to keep pushing it, because if there's no one there on the other side that's there to keep pushing the project after you leave as a consultant, I think you have some problems. So yeah.
So I imagine sometimes you go in and you're helping them start from scratch. Maybe that would be it easier than what I suspect you see sometimes as you're going in and you see kind of a big mess when it comes to their data. Is that something you come across, like, oh man, I need to clean this up? Either the workflows aren't right, or there's no single source of truth, or they really need to get some of the new tools in here. What do you tend to see?
Yeah, I think what can end up happening is that, maybe sometimes it can feel like a mess, and sometimes it can be. But I think in other cases, what another common issue is, like, you often run into, like, key person. So this is often like, maybe they had a solid data team of 2 or 3 people or one person that built up a lot of infrastructure over the last, like, 2 years as they worked at that company, and then they end up leaving. And even if there's decent documentation, it can just be hard to kind of piece it back together. And so sometimes it's a mess, but sometimes it's just like, someone did a good job of setting things up, but they're gone now. There was no real handoff. And, even with documentation, there's a lot of work to kind of, like, reverse engineer, figure out what happened, figure out what needs to change, figure out if things are changing over time, where, data pipelines that worked before don't work anymore, or dashboard numbers are still right. And
Oh no, we have lost the Seattle data guy. He's gone blank. So we're going to hang out for a minute and see if he comes back. In the meantime, I'm not convinced he's going to, because he's having some connection issues. I'm just going to take the questions. If they're questions for Ben, I can't answer them, but at least I can say hello to everybody who tuned in. So, he's back. He's back.
I guess my internet's not as good as
No
I
worries.
hoped.
I just kept
Uh,
talking, so we're good. This is the beauty of live
yeah.
streaming. I was about to take some comments. Good thing you're back, because I wouldn't have been able to answer as expertly as you. So we'll start with David Regalado. I don't know if you know David from LinkedIn, but he actually runs a huge data engineering community in Latin America.
Um,
So hi, David. And his question is very good. Have you ever thought that creating content distracts you from honing your skills as a data engineer? And he also says, congrats for the success of your YouTube channel. So what's your take on that, on how do you balance the content creation and, being the professional that you are?
yeah, I mean, like, I definitely think, you can always get distracted by things. And, I try to make sure, my main focus is consulting. So, that's definitely more in my skills. I also think like content gives you a great chance to learn new things and break, like maybe you're interested in learning something and people like following you on that journey too, right? I think it's like Kenji has like a 66 days of data science or something, and there's different people have like things of that nature. And so I think creating content can also give you an opportunity to share what you're learning as well. I do think it's always important to both try to balance out like giving and also like receiving as a person, right? Like if you just constantly give and give and give, you eventually, like, it's not just distracting. You just eventually have like, you just run out of ideas. You run out of, and run out of like motivation. And whenever that happens, like with me, I'm like, okay, I should go like spend some time with some good content, learn some new things, see what else people are saying. If I feel like I have nothing else to say, it's probably because I've been trying to put out way too much, and I haven't been spending enough time like gleaning information. So I think someone once said like writers read like 4 to 10 times what they write or something. And I like that idea as a content creator. It's like you should always try to consume more solid content, like content that's good, than you put out, because it's hard to constantly put out things like, and seeing good content inspires you. Like when you see like, oh, this person like made a video about Databricks, and they're like, wow, like they really like took the care to do this or that, and I really want to like add that in. So there's a lot of little things you pick up, not just the skills in terms of like what you're learning from the video, but also like as a content creator, you'll be like, oh, I want to try this in my next video, or I want to try to do something different based on how they did it. So yeah,
So
I think it can obviously.
yeah,
Sorry.
we want our viewers obviously to subscribe to your channel, but in addition to that, who are some of the favorite content creators in the data space that you like, that inspire you?
Yeah, I think Ben from Mode is a great person from a writing perspective. He always has like really interesting, I think, takes on kind of what's going on in the bigger data world.
Mm-hmm.
I really enjoy reading like the Netflix, Uber, and what's the other, Airbnb data blogs. They always have interesting takes because they're dealing with massive problems. So I like reading those blogs as well. In terms of like creators,
Who are your
trying to
favorite
think. I
YouTubers?
mean, yeah, I was trying to think. Um, I guess it depends on how, like, if you're talking about like data YouTubers, right? Like there's gonna be people like Luke Burrows, because he's got both great interesting content, but also is like very creative and like very like aesthetic. Um, and, but if you're talking about like creators, like there's people like Joma Tech, who puts out like really great content. It's not as technical, but it's just the way, like, you look at him and you can tell he like tries to think of a story, tries to think of a much bigger picture, versus just like this one video. And I think even things like that, it's like, okay, how do you go beyond just like, I want to make this one video? It's like, how do you make a bigger thing? So I think those are two solid people who like
Those are
have
great,
really
because
good
I actually
skills.
don't recognize the names you're saying. So if you don't mind putting them in the comments afterwards, I'll check them out, and our viewers
Sure,
can
sure.
too. Because there's so much out there depending on how hyper specialized you want to be. If you're early in your career, further along in your career, so those are great recommendations. We have a comment from Sylvia Awandatu. Hi, Sylvia, and she's getting back to your role as a consultant. She says that some companies are interested in the data. That's probably what you find when you go into most companies. They want to be data driven, but they're not ready to act on being data driven. So that's a great point, Sylvia. Another question about the role of a consultant. I'm curious, when you go into a company, are you ever met with the fear, this could be by someone on any team, that you are there to automate them out of a job, right? Because if you bring in maybe some better tools, maybe some data engineers or analysts could find that they have less work. They might think that. Working in data, I know that's not really the case, but they might have that fear. Same with, say, marketing. You bring in even a tool like Hightouch. They might say, well, this is going to improve our results, but maybe there won't be as much work for me to do. Is that sort of a tension that you feel ever?
Yeah, sorry, it's still, for some reason, I hope it's not my internet. But
the funny thing is that both Ben and I are in
Oh.
Denver today. So, but you'd think we were speaking to each other from like the US to Australia with the lag time. So that's okay. So the question was just about that tension. Do people think you're gonna like automate them out of a job?
Let's see if it clears up here in a second. Okay, I think we're clear.
Yeah, we're good.
Whatever weirdness. Yeah, just to answer that question in terms of like, you're asking, do people kind of fear if you bring in like automation or try, maybe even just you as a consultant come in, like maybe they're worried you're going to take their work. And I think for me, does this sometimes happen? Yes, of course. Like some people are going to feel like you're going to take it, or you're just going to change things, right? Like that's the other thing, or you're going to call something out. And I think my goal is always to try to partner with whoever I'm working with, both like from a high level, right? Like finding a stakeholder, but also like with the analyst or the people, and try to be empathetic to why they made the decisions they would. Like if they feel like I'm going to call something out, like I'm working with companies who I've like told like, oh, why, I always try to understand, because
oh man, we lost Ben again. I am so sorry about this, but I'm gonna keep going for a minute. If he comes back, we'll keep the show going, and if not, then I will wrap it up. This very special episode of the Data Tea, that the first time we had technical issues, he switched devices. All right, there we go.
I'm sorry. I didn't realize my internet would be this bad in Austin.
This is my background. I don't know if you know this, is in live broadcast. So I've been on like international news networks where this happens. So it doesn't bother me. We'll keep going for another 5-10 minutes. If it drops out again, then we'll just schedule another interview down the line. David Regalado David, I should know this. You're in Peru. I keep saying Latin America, but I should know more specifically. I think you're in Peru. Correct me if I'm wrong. But he was just commenting on your answer, and he said automation should give them time to focus on tasks that add value to the business instead of routine stuff. And that's a good point. I think most of us know, working in data departments, analytics, engineering departments, that there's always room for improvement, and usually there's room for more and more staff. The risk of like someone getting laid off because you come in and offer this amazing data strategy and improved data stack usually just means that better work can be done. So thanks for that comment, David. Ben, I want to know, when you do a video, when you're coming up with the ideas for your videos, what's been the hardest one? Like where you were like, this is easy for me to, think about when I'm an expert in, say, using Airflow, but when you sit down to do your video, it's actually much harder than you thought. What was the toughest video for you to do, to teach to other people how to use something?
Yeah, man.
Oh, we lost him again. I think we're probably just going to stop the show, guys, because guys and ladies, I should say. And we'll do an episode 2 with Ben because there's just too much interruption, which is totally fine. So thanks everybody for tuning in. I apologize for the technical difficulties, but this is what happens sometimes with live streaming. And we will come back with Ben Rogajan, the Seattle data guy, not too long in the future. Thanks for watching. All right, bye-bye.